Yes, we are talking Sixers. Sixers. Welcome back in, everybody. You're muted. M-U-T-E. D-Gun.
I'm glad you clarified that. Whew. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Said, okay. All right.
Maybe later we'll talk something else that you seem to have on your mind. That's
No.
Okay. Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis, Sports Take, hanging out with you. If you could hit the like button, friends, appreciate it. Always excited when our next guest gives us some of his very valuable time, and we appreciate it because it has probably been a very crazy last couple of days for him. He does an awesome job covering the Sixers for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and you can follow him on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers. Keith, good morning, man. How you doing?
Hey, good morning, y'all. How you doing?
Good morning.
Keith, good, man. Good. Obviously, let's talk about the Harden deal and give me your impressions when you first heard it, because, did you know that this thing was kind of getting close? Obviously, we've been going through this sort of soap opera for a while now, but did you get a sense that anything was close when it all came down the other early morning?
I mean, not at this. I mean, okay, put it this way. Let me back. You kind of figured something was going to happen soon, just because of like Harden. They're saying he's about to ramp up, he's about to play. Maxey was playing well. You know what I mean? Did you really want to bring that into the locker room? You know what I mean? So when you come from that standpoint, yeah, you expected it, but I didn't expect it to go down at 2:00 in the morning. You know what I mean? I didn't at all. I didn't expect that.
Keith, let me ask you this. I read something this morning, and see if you can lend any additional information to this. I saw where it said the Sixers did not get what they wanted out of this trade, but it was mandated by ownership to get this thing done ASAP. They didn't care what they were getting in return. They just wanted him out of here.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, what they wanted is they did want Terrence Mann, right? So, but they didn't get him. But I do think, ownership didn't want this thing lingering around. Like, the guy was, let's face it, he didn't show up for training. He didn't show up for a media day. He missed the first day of training camp. Now, they said he had to get a physical. That's why he missed it. He only participated in one scrimmage. And then next thing you know, like, he's gone for 10 days. He's trying to get himself on the plane, right? And then all of a sudden you have Tyrese Maxey is balling, like balling. And so with that being said, it's like, if your ownership, like, yo, you got to do away with this. We have too much good mojo going right now, to whereas we do not need any more distractions.
That's how
I feel with that.
Yep, that makes perfect sense, Keith. So if you look at what comes back here, 2026 1 protected, 2028 1 unprotected, 24 second, 29 second, and 4 guys who are all in the last year of their deal: Rocco, Marcus Morris, Nick Batum, and KJ Martin. Let me start with the players. Are these guys all going to be here, do you think? Will anybody be waived? How do you think it's going to work with the guys that they acquired?
I think right now they're all going to be here for now. But I do think that is also one of those things where they all can be out of here in 2 months. Like, right now you could say, like, you could trade one of them by himself, but you can't aggregate that player in any trades. But when you look at their salaries, I believe their salaries all combined come to $40-something million. And what you can do is you can ship those players to a different team and bring a player back who you feel like is a max salary player, and then give that team the draft picks that you just acquired, right? So I look at it that, all these guys are definitely going to come off the books at one point in time. It may be the end of this season, but what they are is they're expiring contracts that you need to help make a trade go for a team that's like looking to shed a megastar and start a rebuilding process. But from what I hear, they're going to be here for the time being, so to speak.
Keith, I had said to Rob yesterday on this show that once this trade became official, I can still see this Sixers roster winning anywhere from 45 to 50 games. I don't think the East is nearly close to being as talented as the West overall. And Joel Embiid has to be breathing a sigh of relief right now because he doesn't have to deal with this mess anymore like he did with Simmons and, of course, up until this trade. Do you think, let's say the Sixers do win 50 games. Let's say they do bow out in the second round again. Do you think that would appease Embiid, knowing that they will have a whole lot of cap space next summer to really ramp up and get players that can help put this team over the top? Or is it a wait and see, do you think? From what you know of Embiid, is it a wait and see type scenario?
I mean, I think it might have to be a wait and see type scenario. I mean, I feel like it's still early days. Like I do.
Okay.
Like I feel like, right now they played 3 games. Everything is great, right? You look at it, they got the second best record in the East, but again, it's only been 3 games. And then what happens is, the thing is, the grand scheme of things is like, yes, if they don't get out of the second round, then you got to look and see who are going to be the guys that they can be able to get with them. Like if they can't get anyone with them, it's kind of like maybe I might rethink something. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's what it is. It's one of those things of what are you going to be able to do? Now, if they could go out there and get like a Zach LaVine or anybody like a Pascal Siakam or OC Obanobi, like guys like that, then maybe Embiid will look at him like, yeah, I can see it. But I feel like if they can't do it, Joel Embiid will probably have to take a long look at this thing and feel like if he wants to be here or not,
That's the thing. It's almost like you're asking him again. I know he's already in place, obviously, and Maxey, we're assuming they're going to get a long-term deal done with, and I guess Jaden Springer with the 4th-year option picked up. But it's almost like you're asking him to rebuild might be strong, but like a heavy retool on the fly, Keith, at the end of the season, and he's got to be like, didn't I go through this the first 4 or 5 years of my career, man? That's where I wonder where his mindset's going to be at.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't I go through this? And then the thing is, like, he used the word once, continuity. Like, I'm always having different teammates. So, the guys that you get in, like, the continuity still isn't there because these guys they got aren't going to be here past this season. Maybe Tobias may or may not, right? A lot of people. So the deal is, I think it has to be players that Embiid wants to play with and Embiid thinks that he can win with right now. Because if not, what it is, I mean, let's face it, there's been a lot of different guys who came through here.
Yep.
I mean, like Robert Covington's coming back, right?
Yeah.
He was here before. Danny Green made his second go round with the Sixers. James Harden, JJ Redick, you could go on and on and on and on, all the guys who've been here. And what happened? The same thing. We get excited. There's an ups, there's the downs, and then all of a sudden they go out in the second round. So, Joel Embiid has lived through all that for like the better part of a decade. So, yeah, it's going to have to be a lot of what happened, what do they get, and move forward. And it may not be a decision like people think it's going to happen like right after the season or it's going to happen during the free agency period. No, it may be one of those things where it comes out at that time, but it'll linger until the start of the season. You just never know. Now, again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm just saying these are the type of things that, people have to be aware of.
No.
So Keith, of the 4 players that the Sixers got back, who do you think will help them the most? Because you don't see a lot of scoring punch, and they do need, as well as it looks right now, they do need some additional scoring punch on this team.
They do, but, the thing is, I feel like I think the person who will help them the most right now, I would have to go with Covington. I mean, I would have to say that. And the reason why I'm saying that, I'm not talking about scoring. I don't know if you got it in that group. Like Marcus Morris can get some buckets, right? He can. But they're all like older now. They're all slowing down, even down the Cub. But the reason why I said he could help you is because you look at Tobias Harris, and you have a guy in Tobias who's a scorer, offensive player. But now you can take some of those other responsibilities, like, hey, I need you to guard the other team's best wing. Covington could try to do that. Covington is still as of yesterday, he was still ranked 7th in the league in steals, right? So he's still an elite defender, right? Maybe not, as good as he was, but I feel like for that he can. Now, the thing about these guys, when we look at it, so we look at the roster and we look at the guys they got, and you look at the guys they lost. Philip Petrusev wasn't going to help you. Danny Green may come in every 5th game and hit a couple threes, right? Yeah. Well, that's what Nick Batum can do. Every probably 5th to 6th game, he may hit a couple threes. When you look at toughness, right? You talked about PJ Tucker, but Kelly Oubre was taking all of PJ Tucker's minutes, right?
Yep.
So then you look at toughness in Marcus Morris. That's toughness, right? But again, I don't look at any of these guys, not even Cove. I don't look at any of them and say, all right, right now, this guy, we're going to know what they're going to do consistently on a nightly basis to help the Sixers win. But what they can do is maybe every so often, they may have a good game, depending on a matchup or depending on how things go, and they may be able to contribute. So basically, they're all about providing depth. But when you look at the people they lost and you look at the people they brought in, it's kind of like a push them to me.
How about one of the younger guys is KJ Martin? That's where he's the exception to some of these other guys that they brought in, Keith. And I know it was Houston, who was a bad team. He had a pretty good year last year. He's athletic. Is he a guy that may stick, whereas most of the others are probably going to depart after the season?
I think he could. I mean, depending on how it plays out. And the funny thing about that is, like he was in LA, he lives in LA, his father and them are all in LA, he went to high school there. Yep. So to them, it was a little bit of, wow, he got traded, a little disappointment, right? They're happy for him because it's a better opportunity. But I feel like he could be, but the thing about him is he's such a young guy that if he has a solid season, somebody may throw some money at him. Right. And then it's going to be up to the Sixers if they want to keep him. But I will say this, he's raw, but he's extremely athletic. I mean, when they played the Sixers here last year, I think all of his shots were dunks. All his points came off of dunks. So he brings that. He also brings the toughness that his father played with. He doesn't back down from anyone. So with that being said, I do like him. But again, he's still a young player. He's still raw. But I do like him. He could be a guy that sticks. But the only concern is if he plays really well and if he's a West Coast guy, I really love the West Coast, I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to go somewhere closer to home.
Do you think this move finally gets Daryl Morey some breathing room with the media and the fan base in Philadelphia?
I think it does with some, I do, because what it does is it kind of like pushes the goalpost back, right? Like before it was like, okay, get rid of James. We want you to get this guy. Now it's like you got these assets in expiring contracts, and now you have like draft picks to get players. So basically what it does is it's going to be the trade deadline, and then it's going to be free agency. And I think people are going to be looking at him then. But, yeah, they're going to give him a little breather for now. But, again, but he still has to produce because although you got rid of James, we really can't give this trade a true grade until Daryl brings someone in with those draft picks.
What did you sense here, with James towards the end? I mean, was there going to be something else coming, Keith? Was he going to play? I mean, like if you couldn't move him, he's sitting there on the bench Sunday night. Like, what were you going to do? What ultimately would he have played Thursday night or tomorrow night?
I don't think so, man. Like, I don't think so. Like, the whole thing was like, think about it. Like, it was one of those things. You come back, you don't even practice. They're saying you're going to do this, you're going to do that. I don't think he was going to play. I mean, I don't think if they say we're trying to ramp up your conditioning, but you don't like you only did one scrimmage and you were practicing with the G League guys, a couple of G League guys in a little workout. I don't think that's like getting you prepared to play in the game on Thursday, especially now when the 76ers are trying to really, win. They're trying to get stuff together. And then not only that, Nick Nurse he just got Maxey acclimated to everything. Like I felt like James was just they might have said something differently, but to me, I feel like James was just here so he didn't get fined, and so like you can make it seem like he's being a great team player, so he could get traded.
I've been saying I'm so glad that James is not playing, because I think this is now the evolution of Tyrese Maxey. And I think he's playing right now. I mean, 3-game sample, yes, at an all-star level. I think James getting out of his way will allow us to see an even better version of what Tyrese Maxey. Last time we talked to you, we agreed in unison that we didn't think that Tyrese was a true point guard. But the way they're utilizing him right now and the way he's playing, I think this is going to take his game to the next level. He doesn't have to worry about looking over his shoulder anymore.
I agree 100%. Because that's what it would have been. It would have been stunting his growth. Now I got to commend Tyrese Maxey, because what Tyrese Maxey did is, I was saying, hey man, he needs this summer to go work on his defense. Just work on his defense. Nah, what he did is he worked on those pick and rolls, right?
Mm-hmm.
He worked on getting the ball out. And you look at it, I know he had 2 turnovers the last game, but the first 2 games, against you argue the better 2 teams, the best 2 teams of the 3, he had 65 points, 15 assists, and 1 turnover.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's amazing. And he looked good with the ball. He was making right decisions. It wasn't like he was scoring now, but it was also he wasn't doing it to the detriment of his teammates. When he saw guys open, he made sure they got the ball. He fed them. So yeah, Tyrese Maxey really elevated his game. He's ascending right now. And you say to yourself, like, okay, it's only 3 games. I can't get like overhyped over it. But at the same time, you didn't expect him to do this in these 3 games, especially not against the Milwaukee Bucks. So yeah, Tyrese Maxey, you have to commend him, and you have to appreciate ownership and everybody for saying like, look, you got to get James out of here, because you're about to stunt this guy's growth. You're about to turn it into a circus that we don't need. And Tyrese Maxey could be the co-star that we're looking for.
And the other thing, Keith, if you look at it, and look, he had an amazing week, player of the week and all that kind of stuff in the Eastern Conference. What are you seeing from him in terms of point guard attributes? Are you seeing more of that, or is it still a feel for him right now where he's a combo, but are you seeing him doing things more that would lend to him being able to handle that one spot?
Well, I think that the way that they're running things, where it's a free-flowing things and guys are cutting and stuff like that, he doesn't have to be the quote-unquote traditional point guard, like, walk it up, do this, get over here, do that. I feel like they got the ball. The ball is in his hands for him to excel, but also make nice reads, a couple reads, but be deliberate. So I feel like, from what I saw, I feel like that he can do it. I do. Now, again, would it be best to have another point guard, like another guy who can come in and be a change of pace guy? Of course. I think that they would benefit from that. But from the things that I saw, I like it for the system that they have. Because let's face it, they get the ball to Tobias. Joel's handling the ball. DeAnthony Melton's handling the ball. Patrick Bev's handling the ball. It's not like you don't need him to be a Chris Paul, so to speak. So with that being said, I feel like it's good, because let's face it, he's scoring a lot of points and he's creating his own offense. That's what you want. You want the ball in his hands so he can create his own offense.
Keith, would you consider flipping the script? Kelly Oubre has come here and come out of nowhere. He's already averaging 19 points a game. Would you flip the script and maybe put him in the starting lineup and bring DeAnthony Melton off the bench instead of starting Melton?
I don't see, the thing about it is I probably wouldn't do that right now. And that's a great question. And the reason why I wouldn't do it is because Melton struggled mightily the first 2 games shooting the ball. And I kind of like what Kelly Oubre brings off the bench. And I remember they had Kelly Oubre starting the 3rd preseason game with Tobias and crew. And I didn't like it. Kelly ended up being the leading scorer, but I didn't like what I saw with him with that initial group, because he wasn't getting the ball. He wasn't he wasn't like that instant offense that he is off the bench. So to me, I think that as long as Kelly can continue to come in and score, I like him in that role. Right now, if you can get somebody else who can do it, it's cool. But my main concern is is that going to take some of Kelly's production away, starting there, knowing that Maxey's has to eat, Joel has to eat. You want to get Tobias eating to keep him involved in the game. So I like Kelly as this sixth man. I really do, because I like the offense that he brings off the court.
Keith, what are your overall impressions of Nurse so far? They've only played 3. I granted 2 are against bad teams. I get it. But what are your impressions about the way Nick Nurse is handling himself thus far with the talent base that he has?
I mean, yeah, you have to give him an A, right? Yeah. You have to give him an A. I really like what he's doing. The thing is, you think about it, when the Sixers came, when they got PJ Tucker and all those guys, everybody was talking about they're a tougher team. They're this, they're that. The defense got better. This time last year, they couldn't stop me from shooting a 3. Like, they just couldn't, right? Mm-hmm. Their perimeter defense was horrible. Now, like, in the preseason, it looked bad, this and that. But at times, and it still has something to go. But when you think about it, they had 17 blocks the last game. They're pressuring, or they're swarming all over everyone, right? You look at Pascal Siakam, they basically took him out of the game in the second game of the season. And in addition to that, you look at how Maxey has ascended. Tobias is playing pretty good. You got Kelly Oubre doing stuff. Joel Embiid is passing the ball. He's deciding to be a good defender. So when you think of all that, it's all the coach. And so you have to say that he's done a phenomenal job thus far.
Yesterday, Rob and I were discussing something that came out on social media about Joel not being in game shape. How is that possible when you go through a training camp and he admitted himself he's not quite in game shape? Now he's putting the biscuit in the basket, but how, as the face of the franchise, the leader of that locker room, you're not in game shape at this point of a season?
Well, I think it's the culture. I think it has a lot to do with that. I mean, think about it. When has he come into a season in game shape? I think he's done it once. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so, it's one of those things where it's the culture. It's like, and I think I probably said this on here before, is one of those things where you only get away with what people allow you to do, right? If they allow you to come in out of shape and do whatever you want, and you don't have anybody like saying anything, you're going to continue to do it. It's like letting your kid, jump and run all over the couch. And then when your mom comes over, grandma, get off the couch. And they're like, what? I do this all the time. So I feel like, I feel like it's a learned behavior, so to speak. Like they allowed him to do it. And that's just what we have now. Unfortunately, that's what it is.
Wow. Keith, last one from me. How do you think this fit works with the Clippers? You got an older Harden, an older Westbrook, Kawhi and Paul George. You got a lot of guys who miss a lot of time and one ball to go around. How do you think that's going to work there?
I don't think that's championship worthy. I don't think it is a build a champion. And it was funny because I was asking a guy, familiar with the Clippers, and I said, I said, man, what's the deal? Like, what's the infatuation with Harden? Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, we got a lot of guys who miss time, and they need to have like 2 of the 3 primary scorers in the game during the regular season. So I'm thinking like, okay, so you just traded for a substitute teacher. Like, so basically they want him to help them in the regular season so everybody can stay healthy. But then what happens in the playoffs? That's my biggest thing, because as you need a team to win, and it's all great and everything, but I don't understand it. And when I look at the Clippers, I'm looking at them now and I'm looking at the locker room. The Clippers are everything that's bad with basketball nowadays. And I hate to say it, but it is. The Clippers are the team in LA that nobody wanted to play for. Everybody wanted to go to the Lakers, right? For years. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, player empowerment comes, and where guys say, look, we want to make our own way. So what's the team that you can do that with? It's the Clippers. So you start getting these guys from California, from the LA area, Paul George, Kawhi, and Harden, and all of them want to go to and Westbrook. That's 4 of them. They all want to come back home, and they all want to create their own legacy, saying, look, we put the Clippers back on the map. the problem is all 4 of them are ball dominant players. Now, Paul George probably isn't like that, but they all need the ball. And it's like they're all wings. They're all like guards, like forwards, like this and that. So to me, that's not the best way to build a team. Yeah, now you do have star power, but like you said, there's only one ball. And I think that when I look at the Clippers, I think of like what's bad with basketball, with the player empowerment and everything. And I don't think it's going to work out.
Gotcha.
Did you guys see the video yesterday of when Harden walked in the Clippers locker room and Terrence Mann just gave him a side-eye look like, yeah, okay, we'll see how this works. Hey, if looks could speak volumes, oh my goodness. The only person really got him game embrace was Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, Westbrook was excited. It didn't seem to be too many backflips going on in that locker room.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that one works, man. We'll see how it works out. I mean, it looked like it had like a country club environment. They were all chilling and yapping and talking and everything. And, you know, they're rolling out the red carpet. But my concern was, like, that's a lot for a guy who you need to get scoring in the regular season. Well, what happens in the playoffs if he's not getting putting up those numbers? And what does Kawhi Leonard say if he's not getting the ball? Because let's face it, there's only one dude in that locker room that won championships, and that's Kawhi.
Yeah.
One dude in that locker room.
Well said. Well said. Keith, thanks. Always
Appreciate
thanks for hopping on with us, man. We appreciate it, and we wish you all the best. We're looking forward to talking to you down the line. Thank you, Keith.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
All right, man, be good.
That is Keith Pompey, kind enough to hop on for a couple minutes. Interesting insights there, Gunner, on the whole situation, not only with the Sixers, but with the Clippers as well. All right, we come back. We're going to set our sights on the Eagles and the running game in particular, and the Dallas Cowboys as well, as it is Cowboy week. So there's a lot to dive into with the Birds and everything that's going on with them offensively, defensively. Don't go anywhere. That's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis for Sports Take. All right, we're talking about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because knowing who to trust with your finances can be very scary, right? It can be very challenging. And I'm right there at the front of the line. And I was for a very long time. But I found Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, and he is somebody that I trust implicitly with my finances, whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review. You might have a small business. You need help with your employee benefits. That's another resource that Jim can help you with. Personally, I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollover with Jim, and I could not be any happier. You will be too. And he's always there for any kind of consultation, any questions that you have. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751, or you could email him, Murray, Murray.Jim@principal.com. That's Murray.Jim@principal.com.